everybody, welcome back to another video. In today's video, like the title suggests, I want to do a quick little story time about how a car that I was driving got impounded. So for those of you that don't know, if a car gets impounded, it's because there's a defect with the car. It could be no insurance, no tax, the driver doesn't have a license. It could be a mechanical defect with the car, like the wheels falling off. A car can be impounded for any of those reasons, or indeed any other reason. And in my case, it was the registration plates. So I was between two jobs, my last job and my current job. I had a company car at my last job, and I was getting a company car at my new job, and I've got the company car now. A good friend of mine, Dan, kindly let me borrow his Audi A5 S-Line Quattro. I don't know. It was lovely to drive, it was quick, and it sounded quite mean too. So I was driving that for, I think, a weekend, maybe a couple days, 4 days max. And he said to me when I picked it up, he said, I've took the private reg off because he was selling it, and all he asked was that I go and put its original plates back on. So I took the V5 and I took my driver's license down to Halfords and asked them to print up a set of plates. So I went to the back of my local Halfords store down in Shrewsbury, and I asked them, can I get a front and back plate with this registration plate? Here's the V5, here's my driver's license, help please, here's my money. So after a round of questioning, like I was in Guantanamo Bay, he finally allowed me to have the plates printed. Because the name on the V5 didn't match my name, and because the address didn't match the address on my driver's license, there was a bit of confusion. I explained that I was borrowing it from a friend, and he'd asked me on his behalf to go and get these new plates printed. So he said, yep, okay. Eventually he agreed that it was fine, and he radioed over a walkie-talkie to a colleague the registration plate for the car. Again, this is where things went wrong. So when he read the registration plate, he read it off the V5 which I'd given him, and like I said, passed it over to a colleague in a separate room who printed the plates off. Now about a minute later, he walked off into said room, picked up the plates and brought them back out to me. I'd already paid my money, so I walked out the shop. I picked up some of them sticky pad things, and away we go. So I drove home. I was in the Astra still at that point. The Audi was parked on the drive at home. So what do? You get your cleaning cloth out so you can wipe up the surface. I pulled the old plates off, stashed them in the boot, and got the new plates out, prepared the back of them, took the cellophane off, put the sticky pads on, front plate on, no problem, back plate on, no problem, everything's going great. So I drive the car for a few days, just drive it here, there and everywhere, every time I needed it. I'd obviously insured it. Dan had taxed it already, it was already taxed, so I insured it using cover and drove it about, just as you would with any other car. So Monday rolls around and I'm starting my new job. I take Chelsea's car to work instead of using the Audi. Audi's quite heavy on fuel. It was a diesel, but very heavy on diesel. So I took Chelsea's car to work just because it would end up being a little bit cheaper, and I'm insured on Chelsea's car anyway. It's actually my insurance policy. Chelsea is a named driver because she insures her TT. So I insured the Mini, it's insured all year round, and I can jump in it whenever I want, and so can she. So I took the Mini to my new workplace, and I got my company car that day. Well, I got a company van, but it was mine to use until my company car came. So I drove the company van home, picked Chelsea up, and we drove back down to work, picked up her car and drove home. Fast forward about a week, and Dan has managed to sell his Audi. Obviously I'd returned it to him when I was done with it, and yeah, he managed to sell it. So the new owner came, picked it up, was happy with it, agreed a price, sold. Transferred the V5 over into his name, all of that fun stuff. Job's a good one. So new owner's driving it home, and he gets pulled over. Somewhere between where our unit is and his house, gets pulled over, and the police say, you're using fake plates. And he said, no, I'm not. I've just bought the car. Here's a receipt, and here's the V5 in my name. or at least the new keeper slip in my name. You know, I've got proof that this is my car, it's insured, it's taxed, all that fun stuff. And he said, the police officer said, no, it's you've bought a stolen car, something like that, because the plates are fake. These plates don't exist in the system. So of course he messaged Dan, or phoned Dan, and Dan said, well, you know, it's not a stolen car, it's mine, I gave you the V5. So obviously then Dan phoned me and said, you know, what's gone on? So I forwarded him the receipt from Halfords, which clearly shows the registration plate, the correct registration plate to be precise. So the failure was on Halford's part, and you could argue my part, and I'll explain why in a minute, but the failure was on Halford's part for not actually printing the correct registration plate that they read off the V5, printed on the receipt, and then gave to me. So the failure on my half comes from the fact that I should have checked the plate when I put it onto the car, but also when you've paid somebody £35 to print some registration plates, you would hope they were right. And considering it's not my car, I don't know the plate. I know the plates of all my cars and all my old cars, but as I said, it's not my car, so I didn't know the registration plate. Anyway, enough of the excuses on my half. Halfords printed the plate wrong. So what happens next? A car has to be released from an impound. To do that, you have to prove ownership, which obviously he could. He had the receipt and he had the V5. He had Dan saying, yes, I sold this car to him. So then he has to pay a fee to release the car. So I think it was around £300–400, which is a lot of money. And yeah, they released the car. He had to pay for it. Bit of a pain. And Halfords basically just said, well, you know, it's your fault, you should have checked the plates. Which I think is quite bad, really, because maybe they should have checked the plates as well when they printed them. But there we go, I learned a lesson. Always check the plates when they've been printed, and check them before you put them on the car, to save having your car impounded. So that's a little story time. Let me know if you enjoyed it. I've got a few more that I could tell if this video does well. But thank you for watching. I hope you did enjoy it. Make sure you give it a thumbs up and hit the subscribe button. And I'll see you in the next one.